Hey everybody, this video is going to be about when to trade break and retest setups. I basically have two types of setups in my playbook. One is a range-based setup, and then the other is a breakout of the range. And me personally, I like to wait for the retest. And the thing about any one of these types of setups is that they can work in the right environments. Some environments are better for range-based mean reversion type strategies, and then some types of environments are more favorable towards break and retest type strategies. And today was the latter, and I want to go over why. So this is the trade that I took here on NQ, so Nasdaq futures. It was just about a 2R trade, and I entered here at a little bit after 10 o'clock, and it took a while to develop, but ultimately exited over here right before 11 o'clock. About 30 minutes that I was in this trade, which is a bit of a longer trade for me, but so be it. Now, to cover why I was so comfortable with a break and retest here, believe it or not, I'm going to zoom out. This is a 1 minute chart. I'm going to zoom all the way out to the weekly. Now, one thing I want to make clear is I don't often look at the weekly when I'm day trading and scalping, but right now in particular, I just want to give this context. This is the weekly chart of NQ futures. And all I want to draw your attention to is that we had this area of consolidation, and this general area was the high of that range that we came and tapped into last week. And really, this was Thursday afternoon into Friday that we tapped into that area and we're pushing out. So on this bigger picture, I'm sort of expecting an attempt to retest the upper part of this current range right here. So this is the range, this is the upper part of the range. And I'm looking for that push upward. And that gave me some of the context for a little bit of a bullish bias. And then from there, I want to go into the 8-hour chart. Now, this is just right now sort of a proxy for the 4-hour. The 4-hour is more commonly what I look at, but right now I just found the 8-hour was cleaner based on current volatility. And so what I want to show here is that we had, again, this very clear area of support back here. And notice, we could pull this across. It's actually cleaner. We could pull this across and we could see that mid last week, we tested that area, bounced up, kind of retested again the top of that weekly range, and then pushed back below in the end of the week, Thursday and Friday. And that's when we tapped that lower weekly support that I was talking about. And on Friday, we kind of hung out underneath this overall area. Right, I'm going to kind of put this back here. So we hung out back beneath this overall area on this 8-hour chart. You can see the wick as we tried to resist it. And then we opened last night, Sunday night, we opened back above the low point of this swing and kind of tested down a little bit, but ultimately started pushing up and out. So that's the context here on the 8-hour, or you can look at it on the 4-hour as well. So we're back inside of this range right here. Okay. So that's sort of point number one, right? We went outside of the range, came back in, retested, and held back inside the range. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. We're going to look at the 1-hour chart. And on the 1-hour, what we see here from the overnight is, again, we pushed up, a little bit of indecision here right around this major swing point. But overall, we're pushing up and we're holding, okay? And we had this now as our 1-hour range, this kind of big range here. And you can see this either in the price action or in a volume profile. You can see this is all kind of one big distribution here. And so what I'm looking at now is that at the open, this 9 a.m. candle, we were pushing up out of this 1-hour range. So we're bouncing off of weekly support. We're back inside of the previous 4-hour / 8-hour range. We made this 1-hour consolidation, and now we're pushing up out of that consolidation. Okay? With that context in mind, I'm going to pull up both charts here so you can see. So this is the open. We pushed up out of the 1-hour range. So this light kind of white box is the top of that 1-hour range. Now I missed this first setup, right? So this is actually more of my range-based setup where we kind of came down, we made this sort of two lows, swept them, but failed to hold below it. And again, we were just retesting the top of that 1 hour range. This would have been a really valid sort of within the range setup. And the range I'm referring to is actually this 1 minute range. Okay, so it's a break and retest of the 1 hour range, but it's trading kind of inside of the 1 minute range. So that was setup number one, but I missed that one, unfortunately. But now what we have is this. I'm going to bring this left-hand chart to a 5 minute so you can kind of see more clearly. So on the 5 minute, we pushed up and we just started to pull back, and we created now what is, again, this range on the 5 minute chart. Okay. And so what I did with this sort of grayish blue box was just draw out the top of that range. Notice that it's catching all of these upper wicks, all of these rejections, all the way to the highest wick there. And then I drew the bottom of the range as well. And so at this point, being that I missed this first trade down here, but we have all of these time frames in alignment supporting a push up. And really quickly, let me just go back to this 1 hour really quick. The thing I want you to take note of is there is nothing standing in the way up here. So the next hourly zone I have is way up here at these 25.60, 25.25 area, right? So we've got just smooth sailing through there. There's just no other resistance that we have to worry about, right? So this really aligns well with the idea of taking a breakout style trade. So with all this higher time frame confluence, then we get this low time frame 5 minute consolidation. We get a push up out of it. And now all I'm looking for is a retest of the upper part of that range. Kind of, one thing I use the volume profile for on these is if we look at the volume of this range here, let me just zoom in. I don't really want to see price dip below this general area of high volume, right? So if this pullback were to come kind of below this general area of high volume, I'm going to be less likely to get involved, even if we get like a big bullish candle at that point. But what we ended up doing ultimately was we pulled back. Let me adjust this stop loss. We pulled back really to where that high volume node is. And then right off of that, as I was watching this candle develop, we started to see buyers come in, and then we got a big buy order. Like you can see the volume here on this buy candle was bigger than the volume on the bearish candle before it. And a lot of that volume came in all at once. It was a big order, right? So there's a big player sitting there. And so when I saw that, I kind of waited till the candle was pretty close to closing. I got in a little bit before it closed, but I simply bought at the market there. And then it was just a matter of being patient. I would have preferred, obviously, for this to move a lot faster. And I really had to fight myself about not over managing this trade because I got to be honest, I was tempted to move my stop below this low after it kind of came down past my break-even point and pushed back up. I was even tempted to go break even here. But to me, that would have been over managing. And I know from looking at my data that it's a good idea for me to manage my trades, but I have to be careful about over managing them, about trailing that stop too early when I don't have a logical reason to do so. And for me, the logical reason to do so was when we pushed above these highs here. And so once this candle pushed and closed above, I did trail my stop under this low, which basically protected me at break even. And then honestly, once we really pushed up out of it, I trailed my stop underneath the bulk of that consolidation for the same overall reason as this theory here, that if price gets below the majority of this volume, there's a decent chance it's going to test lower. And same thing here, there's going to be a lot of volume in this consolidation. And once we broke out, I'm okay with price testing down into here, but if it gets kind of below here, at that point, I'm not sure I want to still be in this trade, especially because I had already sat in this thing for a very long time. And I did want to at least lock in some profits at that point. But price continued to move up. I trailed my stop again under these lows here once it pushed up out of this consolidation. And then it ultimately went to my target and I was able to get out of this trade for about 2 times my risk. But the biggest thing here is that I was comfortable taking this break and retest, which is honestly, I'm more comfortable taking range trade, like trading from the low of a range towards the high of the range than I am trading a break and retest, just me personally. But with all of this higher time frame confluence supporting the idea of a break and retest, with especially looking left and seeing that we just had no resistance over here. There was a lot of smooth sailing, and obviously I could have held this thing. Looking at this hourly chart, I mean, overall, we could have said, hey, let's hold it up to this 2,500 area, but I'm just not that kind of a trader. I'm not good at holding my trades for that long. I'm happy to get in and out with about 2 times my risk in most cases. If I can go for a little bit more, sometimes I do. But especially on break and retest trades, again, it's not my comfort zone. So I usually just go for a 2R target on those. So anyway, that was the trade. I think the key thing here is just to recognize that there's a lot of different ways you can trade, and one of the most important skills to develop is recognizing the types of market conditions that support the type of trading strategy you are using. There are some days that are just not suited for breakout type trades. So that's all I got for today. I hope that that's helpful, and I will catch you guys in the next video.